Hey everybody! Well, we're going to learn how the phases of the moon actually happen now. So remember, the phases of the moon are when the amount of the moon that we can see changes throughout the month. So this diagram's showing the phases of the moon. The other name for it is the moon cycle, if you've ever heard that before. And that's because the phases go in a circle from one all the way around and then back to the start again. So before we learn how it actually happens, we need to know the names of the different phases. So we won't learn all of them, but we'll learn the important ones. So the first one is when you can see the whole moon. And that's the one that most people know. We call it a full moon. Well, after that, then the moon has less visible. And when we get to this point where you can only see half of one side of the moon, we call that a quarter moon. Because you can only see a quarter of the whole moon. Later on, then you can only see a sliver of the moon, and that's called a crescent moon. And then finally, we get to just one day each month where you actually can't see any of the moon at all. And that's called a new moon. Okay, and then we go back through the cycle. So it goes back to a crescent moon, back to a quarter moon, here, back to somewhere in between, and then we get a full moon again. And we're back to the start of the cycle. So remember that the phases of the moon, they're just a change in how much of the moon we can see every month. Well, what we're going to look at now is how it actually works. So the best way to view it is with a simulation, I think. So here's our simulation. We've got Earth in the middle, we've got the moon over on the side here, and then we've got our sun, which is off to the side because it's millions of kilometers away. But the rays of sunlight are coming in from the left here. So on the left side of Earth, it's daytime. And remember that only half of the moon is also going to be lit up in sunlight. So let's actually jump to a full moon. Here we go. So a full moon only happens when the moon is directly on the other side of the Earth. So if we're anywhere on the dark side of Earth, so if we're at nighttime, and we're looking up at the moon, we can see the whole moon is lit up. And so that's why it looks like a full moon. But then if we go through the month a few days, then we can see the moon is orbiting the Earth, and the Earth is spinning each day. So this is going to be a quarter of a month later. So now, if we're anywhere on Earth, and we're looking up at the moon, we're only going to be able to see half of the moon lit up. Because the light side of the moon is on the left, but we're looking at it sideways now. So now this is a quarter moon, because we can only see half of half the moon. Okay, let's go along for another quarter of a month. So about 7 or 8 days. Oh, let's actually go back. Let's go back to here. There we go. So now, if we're on Earth and we're looking up at the moon, well, firstly, it's in daytime. So this crescent moon here is happening during the day, and you can barely see any of the lit up side of the moon, just because the lit up side's facing the sun, and that's pointing mostly away from the Earth. And then if we go a few more days ahead, until the moon's perfectly in between the Earth and the sun, well, now you can't see any of the moon that's lit up, because that side is all facing away from Earth. So that's how we get our new moon. And then the cycle starts going back in reverse. So we have our crescent moon again, because we can only see part of the lit up side. Then a few days later, there we go, you can see half of the lit up side. So there's our quarter moon. And then about a week later, every single day we can see a little bit more of the moon until we're back to a full moon again. And we've started another month. So a full moon doesn't mean it's the start of every month, but on average we have one moon cycle every 30 days approximately. Alright, so that's how the phases of the moon actually work.